So, if you think about the year 1492, right? I mean, the very first thing that comes to mind is that old elementary school rhyme.
Right. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Exactly. He sailed the ocean blue to, dramatically expand the reach of the Spanish Empire. But the thing
It's
is,
not the whole story.
no, not at all, because on his very first ship, like standing right next to him, was a man using that exact same empire to flee for his life.
Yeah, it completely shatters that simple mnemonic we all learned.
It really does. Because when you actually dig into the sources for our deep dive today, it's a dark historical landscape full of
And
shadows.
it contains one of the most, truly paradoxical chapters of human survival imaginable.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We are so glad you are here with us today because we are pulling directly from 16th century Inquisition trial records, conquest ship construction logs, and some really detailed archival research to uncover the shadow history of the Sephardic Conversos.
Yeah, the crypto Jews.
Right. People who are escaping the terrifying grip of the Spanish Inquisition. And their ultimate survival strategy was, incredibly, to help build the exact same empire that actively wanted them dead.
It's wild. And to understand the stakes of this deep dive for you listening, you really have to look at the dual reality of 1492.
Yeah, set the stage for us.
So while the Spanish crown was, funding Columbus's fleet, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand were simultaneously issuing the Alhambra Decree.
Right.
And this mandate forced the immediate expulsion of all professing Jews from Spain,
Oh,
like overnight,
just a brutal, brutal choice.
completely. You
Yeah.
basically had to pack whatever you could carry
Yep.
and leave your ancestral homeland or face execution or, submit to Catholic baptism.
Which, okay, let's unpack this because choosing baptism didn't actually buy them safety.
No, not at all.
It basically just painted a massive target on their backs.
Exactly. Because those who chose baptism or were forced into it became known as the Conversos or the New Christians.
Mhm.
And the Spanish Inquisition was intensely paranoid about them.
They thought they were faking it.
Right. They suspected these new Christians were secretly practicing Judaism. And the truth is, many of them, known as crypto-Jews or anusim, absolutely were.
Yeah, outwardly they practiced devout Catholicism.
But behind closed doors, they risked the flames of the stake just to preserve their Hebrew prayers and dietary laws.
So to escape that intense paranoia, they needed what the sources call a limpieza de sangre.
A purity of blood certificate.
Right. Because the crown strictly forbade anyone with Jewish or Muslim ancestry from participating in their new colonial project in the Americas.
Which meant thousands of these conversos had to navigate this shadowy underworld of identity laundering.
Identity laundering in the 16th century.
Yeah. They falsified their lineages, they purchased forged purity certificates from corrupt officials, and they just boarded the early fleets heading west.
Hoping an ocean would put them out of the Inquisition's reach.
Exactly.
But the church bureaucracy is nothing if not persistent.
They followed them right across the Atlantic.
Yeah, they quickly followed these fleets. And that meant the Conversos had to invent incredibly covert methods of survival right under the Inquisition's nose, starting with that very first voyage.
Columbus's voyage.
Right, because Columbus's official translator was a Converso, a guy named Luis de Torres.
Which is just amazing. Columbus brought him along specifically because Torres was highly educated and spoke fluent Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic.
Because Columbus genuinely believed they were going to make landfall in Asia, right?
Right. He thought they'd run into Hebrew-speaking merchants or possibly even communities linked to the lost tribes of Israel.
I mean, you can't make that up. So Torres becomes the first man of Jewish heritage to step foot on Hispaniola and Puerto Rico.
And he eventually settles in Cuba, right, with a land grant from Columbus.
Yeah, and as a totally wild historical footnote, Torres is actually the person who reportedly introduced Europeans to the consumption of tobacco.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they were woven into the fabric of the colonies from literally day one.
But the danger didn't stop. Like when Juan Ponce de Leon officially colonizes Puerto Rico around 1508, the Conversos are marching with his troops.
But then the regional inquisitors start setting up shop in the main fortified port city of San Juan.
Right, and if you are a crypto Jew, a fortified colonial port packed with church officials is
It's a death trap.
total death trap. So they intentionally abandoned the coastal capitals.
They migrated deep into the rugged, remote, mountainous interiors of Puerto Rico, places like Utuado, Atuntas, and Lares.
And isolated valleys in the neighboring Dominican Republic, too.
Yeah. Because once they were isolated up in those valleys, they could secretly track the lunar calendar to observe, the Fast of Esther or Yom Kippur.
Completely undetected by the municipal church authorities on the coast.
Right. But the thing is, they couldn't just disappear entirely.
No, you still have to participate in society.
Exactly. They still had to interact with local parish churches to keep up the Catholic facade, especially when it came to baptizing their children.
And this is where the archival researchers found something incredible. Looking at the registries from these remote mountain towns, they found that these new Christians constructed complex Hebrew anagrams and biblical references directly into their Catholic baptismal documentation.
It's like a 16th century witness protection program, but instead of keeping a low profile, you're hiding your secret codes inside the very government documents of the people hunting you.
That's a perfect way to put it. They would take a sacred Hebrew root word or numerical equivalent using Jewish gematria.
The mathematical values of letters.
Right, and mathematically scramble it into a locally acceptable Spanish Catholic name.
So to a Spanish priest, the registry book looked completely standard.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
But to the family, the child's true sacred identity was literally mathematically locked inside the ink.
It is an audacious survival tactic. And the ingenuity extends far beyond just baptismal records, It bleeds directly into the culture.
Specifically the music.
Yes. Musicologists have been tracking early colonial folk music across the Caribbean interior, and they discovered distinct modal structures, specifically Phrygian dominant scales, woven into secular acoustic ballads.
And for you listening, if you're not steeped in music theory, the Phrygian dominant scale is the melodic backbone of late medieval Sephardic synagogue liturgy.
Exactly. So what they did was take a slow, somber, ancient melody used for Jewish prayers in Spain,
right?
Speed the tempo up to a lively, 68 dance rhythm, and slap secular lyrics about harvesting sugarcane or daily mountain life right over the top of it.
It is essentially acoustic steganography.
Yeah.
You could literally be singing a Sephardic prayer right in front of a Catholic priest, and he would tap his foot thinking it was just a local mountain tune.
It's brilliant.
It's like a modern computer hacker hiding malicious encrypted code inside a completely normal-looking digital photograph. The data is right there in the open, but you only see it if you have the key.
That is exactly what it was.
But wait, I have to push back here a little bit. Didn't someone eventually notice these anagrams or hear these musical scales and put the pieces together? I mean, surely the roots of some of these families eventually got exposed, right?
Oh, they absolutely did get exposed, and often at the absolute highest levels of colonial society.
Really?
Yeah. Even some of the most prominent historical figures of the era were hiding these roots. Have you heard of Bartolomé de las Casas?
The famous Dominican friar, the protector of the Indians.
The very same. He came from a family originally named Tenaces, and archival evidence tracked by modern biographers shows this was a prominent merchant family with deep Converso ancestry.
Wow.
Yeah, it proves how deeply these new Christian roots penetrated the earliest administrative and religious layers of the New World.
Okay, so while some were hiding in the mountains weaving secrets into folk songs, others took a path that was arguably much more dangerous.
Hiding in plain sight.
Right. Instead of hiding in the margins, they hid in the absolute highest echelons of military power.
Which brings us to the frontier of North America.
Yes. Hernando de Soto, the famous adelantado of Florida, who led that sprawling, just brutal expedition across the American South.
And groundbreaking archival research out of Spain reveals that De Soto was operating under an entirely fabricated persona.
An entire fake identity.
Yes, he was born in Barcarota, Spain, which was notorious as a border hotspot for secret Jews fleeing into Portugal.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
De Soto wants to colonize Florida. And to do that, he needs royal permission from the Spanish crown and entry into the prestigious Order of Santiago.
And that order requires absolute, undeniable proof of purity of blood. 0 Jewish or Muslim ancestors. No exceptions.
So he literally buys a new past.
The archives detail the sheer mechanical effort of this fraud. It's staggering. He spent vast sums of gold bribing corrupt royal officials and amassing fake testimonies.
He literally had local parish records physically altered.
Yeah, we were talking about hiring scribes to take a pumice
Oh,
stone
let's go rock.
and scrape the iron gall ink off 15th century vellum to erase his true grandparents. And then they'd rewrite new, pure-blooded ancestors into the margins, using slightly watered-down ink to fake the aging process.
That is just wild. He systematically buried his true Converso lineage under a mountain of forged parchment.
It's incredible.
Just put yourself in Hernando de Soto's boots for a second. You are marching through the sweltering, mosquito-infested swamps of Florida.
Right.
You are fighting indigenous tribes and demanding absolute, unwavering Catholic loyalty from your soldiers every single day.
The hypocrisy is heavy.
Yeah. And the entire time, you are running a psychological race against your own past.
The mental toll must have been insane.
You know deep down that if one inquisitor back in Seville manages to hold a parish registry up to the light...
And see the scrape marks on the vellum?
Yes. If they see those scrape marks, your entire army, all your wealth, all your titles liquidated instantly, you are always one piece of scraped parchment away from being tied to a stake.
And that staggering cognitive dissonance, it connects perfectly to a broader, devastating historical irony that we see in the conquest of Mexico.
Oh, this is a heavy part of the sources.
It is. The very people securing monumental, empire-defining victories for the Spanish crown were ultimately betrayed by it.
Yeah.
So when Hernán Cortés landed on the Gulf Coast of Mexico in 1519, his expeditionary force contained several secret new Christians.
And the most strategically vital among them was Hernando Alonso.
Right, a veteran blacksmith and horse doctor born in 1461 in Moguer, Spain.
So during the catastrophic retreat in 1520 known as La Noche Triste, the Spanish are driven out of Tenochtitlan.
It was a disaster for them.
Total disaster. They lose half their men, their equipment is gone, and they are completely decimated.
And Tenochtitlan is an island fortress sitting right in the middle of Lake Texcoco. So Cortés realizes they can't take it by land.
They need a navy.
Exactly. Cortés orders the construction of 13 tactical brigantines. These flat-bottomed oak war barges outfitted with cannons for an amphibious blockade of the city.
But building a fleet of warships inland after losing all your supplies is an engineering nightmare.
A total impossibility, usually. But Alonso steps in, and he manages to smelt down broken armor, horse bits, and just salvage materials.
To forge the massive iron fasteners and rowlocks.
Yes, the structural brackets required to hold these heavy barges together. He literally forged the physical infrastructure of the naval fleet that severed the supply lines to Moctezuma's capital.
So because of Alonso's ironwork, the Aztec Empire capitulates in August of 1521.
Right. And Cortés personally rewards Alonso for this tactical genius, granting him a massive encomienda, a land estate, in Actopan, Hidalgo.
So Alonso becomes an incredibly wealthy cattle baron, supplying meat to the newly expanding Mexico City.
But that immense success makes him highly visible.
Which is the last thing you want.
Exactly. By the late 1520s, the Dominican friars arrive in Mexico City specifically to root out secret Jews among the wealthy elites.
And a friar named Vicente de Santa Maria launches an investigation, and in 1528, Alonso is arrested for Judaizing.
And the Inquisition didn't care about his military service. They didn't care about the ships. They focused on the intimate details of his domestic life.
The servant spies.
Yeah, servants had been spying on the household, and the inquisitors discovered that Alonso explicitly forbade his wife from attending church while she was menstruating.
Which is a direct adherence to the biblical purity laws of Leviticus, known as niddah.
They also extracted testimonies, often under the threat of the potro, or the rack, claiming that during a baptism ritual for a child, Alonso had mockingly washed the holy water off the infant using wine.
Oh, man.
Under severe torture in the dungeons, Alonso finally breaks and confesses.
So what does this all mean? I mean, how do you listening reconcile the fact that Alonso forged the very ships that conquered Mexico, only to be reduced to ash by the exact state he helped build?
It's tragic.
Because on October 17, 1528, this wealthy cattle baron and master shipbuilder is marched into the Plaza de Santo Domingo in Mexico City.
Dressed in a yellow heretic's tunic.
A San Benito. And he is burned alive at the stake.
What's fascinating here is the brutal ideological reality of the era. Military utility, tactical genius, immense wealth. None of it could buy religious safety.
Ideological purity always trumped practical value.
Always. The crown gladly took his iron, his ships, and his blood on the battlefield. But the moment the Inquisition questioned his soul, he was completely disposable.
Just a horrific betrayal.
And on that exact same afternoon, his brother, Gonzalo de Morales, was tied to an adjacent stake and burned beside him for secretly keeping kosher and observing the Sabbath.
Wow.
They were the first people ever executed by burning in the history of the Americas.
It's incredibly heavy. And as the 16th century goes on and the Inquisition's terror expands across the Americas, the defiance of the crypto-Jews evolves.
Yeah, from quiet survival in the military to deep intellectual resistance.
Which brings us to 1579. Don Luis de Carvajal y de la Cueva, a decorated conquistador, is appointed governor of Nuevo León.
Which is a vast frontier territory in northeastern Mexico.
And the governor himself is a staunch, entirely loyal Catholic.
Right. But he needs people to help settle this massive territory, so he invites his extended family out from Spain.
Makes sense.
But what he doesn't know is that his sister's family are deeply committed crypto-Jews.
He unknowingly imports an underground network of secret Jews right to the frontier of New Spain.
It's almost cinematic. And the focal point of this network becomes his nephew, Luis de Carvajal Alonso, who serves as his chief assistant and deputy.
That Alonso isn't a blacksmith like Alonso.
No, he is a highly trained calligrapher and a brilliant mystic.
Right. So while working as the deputy governor, Alonso is secretly writing.
He composes an electrifying spiritual autobiography detailing his absolute devotion to the God of Israel.
Under the pseudonym Luli.
Yes. And he does this using a microscopic script inside a tiny hidden leather-bound notebook.
Microscopic.
Yeah, he had to write in a hand so small that the entire manuscript could be easily concealed in the lining of a piece of clothing.
Or tucked behind the binding of a sanctioned Catholic text.
Exactly. Every single stroke of ink was a death sentence. But he documented his soul to leave a physical record that his faith survived.
But then, in 1589, the Inquisition raids their estate and arrests the entire family.
And during the search of Luis Alonso, they find that tiny leather-bound notebook.
Oh, no!
It becomes the undeniable proof of his heresy. And after years in the dungeons, on December 8, 1596, a massive auto da fe, the ritual of public penance and execution, is staged in the main square of Mexico City.
And Luis de Carvajal Alonso, along with his mother Francisca and his young sisters, are paraded through the mocking crowds.
They are strangled with garrotes and cast directly into the roaring flames.
It's just devastating.
It is.
Yeah.
But the flames of the Inquisition consumed their physical bodies, but they could not destroy the leather notebook.
The book survived.
The trial records, the microscopic calligraphy, the confessions, these documents survived. Their iron identities survived in the very archives designed to condemn and erase them.
It is an unbelievable journey that we've taken today. I mean, we started with Columbus's Hebrew-speaking translator looking for the lost tribes of Israel.
Right.
We decoded the hidden ancient synagogue melodies tucked into the acoustic ballads of the Puerto Rican mountains.
We marched with a fraudulent conquistador, scraping his past off 15th century vellum.
And we witnessed the tragic, breathtaking brilliance of men like Hernando Alonso and Luis Alonso.
And if you're wondering why this deep dive matters to you today, it's because this history proves that the past is rarely just a top-down narrative dictated by the decrees of monarchs.
Right. It's not just kings and dates.
Exactly. Real history is written in the margins. It was written by everyday people who engineered brilliant, desperate, and beautiful mechanisms to preserve their heritage against overwhelmingly oppressive systems.
Which leaves us with one final lingering thought for you to consider.
Yeah.
Our materials point out that modern genetic genealogy is rapidly unraveling these 500-year-old secrets.
It's opening a whole new window into the past.
Right. So consider the millions of people living in the Americas right now. When you look at your own family tree, or you think about the peculiar, unexplained cultural traditions your grandparents passed down to you.
Like the way they prepared certain foods.
Yeah. Or the specific phrasing of a blessing, or the lighting of candles on a Friday night. Is it possible you are carrying a centuries-old survival code hidden right in your DNA?
Are you completely unaware of the historical battles your ancestors fought just to exist?
It really makes you wonder, next time you hear the rhyme about Columbus sailing the ocean blue, remember the people who were sailing in the dark, hiding their light in the very ships that conquered the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.